everyone, welcome to episode 4 of Did I Overreact? And we have an amazing guest with us today, Jessyka, who's the president of Culture of Care here at IU. So, Jessyka, we're so glad to have you here. And can you introduce Culture of Care a little bit and tell us about Culture of Care and about yourself and your involvement?
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name's Jessyka. I'm the president of Culture of Care, which is a student organization that focuses on four main subject areas. Within these areas, we do harm reduction and breaking down the stigma, and that includes mental health, sexual well-being, drugs and alcohol, and respect. So we create events around campus, we host meetings, we host different events that focus on having those tough conversations that people come into college not necessarily wanting to have or knowing that they can talk about them, just to make sure that our campus is safe and all of our peers feel like they have a place of community and where they can come and feel like themselves.
That sounds amazing. And that's why we've partnered because we have shared goals and we have ideas that resonate and we love talking about mental health. We love and we want to explore that horizon of how mental health affects sexual health and sexual health affects mental health. These are the things that people are hesitating to talk about really. But today we have a very unique topic that we're going to discuss. But before that, I also have Vidya joining us today for the podcast, who is also a guest, but she is on the exec board, so we would love for you to introduce yourself too.
Great. Hi guys, I'm Vidya. I am a clinical psych major here at IU. I'm a sophomore. And as Aya said, I'm the vice president of outreach at Menstrulog. And I'm really, really excited to be here for this episode. I've definitely seen the past episodes, and I've just been so keen to come and share a few notes of experiences with y'all. So
Yeah.
let's get started.
Today's topic is okay, it's a little fancy, but it's called Mine versus Martini. And we would like to just start off with, little experiences that we know of people who as to when drinking goes from being fun to a coping mechanism. So Vidya, do you want to start?
Sure. I've definitely noticed a few of my peers here at college that have, gone through difficult situations like, breakups and, to just and have used alcohol as sort of a negative coping mechanism.
You, Jessyka.
Yeah, with one of our focuses being drugs and alcohol awareness, we see a lot of kind of just people leaning on substances to kind of let themselves have fun, but also to kind of cope and make themselves feel better, because it allows in their minds it allows them to have this different version of themselves when they are using substances like alcohol. And so it's one of those things where it's really important to know your limit and also know that you are yourself without using substances, and that even though if you're going through a difficult time or whatever it may be, that it's more important not to develop an addiction to that sort of thing, than kind of limit yourself. So
Right. So I too know of an experience, also considering the college setting where we see that people go wild after exams are over, like we see that people are just losing their minds at the parties and, at all the parties happening around campus. And I have always questioned that thing. Like, I always feel like, are they doing it because the exams are finally over and they're actually having fun? Or are they using that event to de-stress from all the stress that they've carried out throughout the exam period?
No, I personally think it is for people who I know, they usually do it as a coping mechanism, and I've seen them say things like, oh, I need to drink to sort of come out of the whole pressure and the stress and the anxiety.
Yeah, so I feel like it depends from atmosphere to atmosphere. I think there are so many settings like workplace, students, so everybody has their own sets of needs and different types of stress that they're encountering. And I also feel like, like when we look at the undergraduate setting or the college setting, we see that students are basically trying to run away from their academic problems or maybe relationship problems. In work, it comes to, like the working hour problems or something like that, just an idea. So I think it varies and it really depends on what situation the person is in. Jessyka, do you have any thoughts?
yeah, I mean, with the topic in general, there are times when like you were saying exams, when people will drink, but then there's also the times where the little 5 races or like Hella Weekend. And that's like a fun time for everyone. But also that could also be serving as like a mask. And so it's our job as people who care about who walks on our campus to make sure that we can see that they are actually doing this to have fun, or if they're doing it to cover up something because they are struggling. And that's kind of what culture of care tries to do, is make sure that we're promoting and almost like training our members to see through that and to know, okay, we need to talk to people who are not doing this just for fun, and you can tell that they're actually struggling.
Yeah.
We describe either a situation that you were in, or if you know of somebody who actually just drank for fun, devoid of any stress. So can you recall any incidents or any experiences that you know of, or have you gone through anything, be it actually or hypothetically? So
I've had friends as well as myself, one to few many instances where I've just drank beyond a limit, or my friends have drank beyond a limit, like we don't know, and other people have to take care of us. But I feel like that was just if you're going to some friend's house, if you're just sitting together and we're just having a couple of drinks, that was, I think, the last time I had drinks just for fun.
what do you think, Jessica?
Yeah, last weekend was my friend's 21st. So
oh, that's a fun
event. Yeah. So that was last time, because it was just like a celebration of her. It wasn't anything crazy. Like everyone just got together and had fun at her house before. She ended up going to the bars after, but yeah, so that was fun.
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't.
So I don't. If you were to state something like about people you know of, or maybe you, do you think you would have actually enjoyed it?
I remember we went to a party, but none of us actually drank the last time. But I actually don't recall like a fun instance, because the last time I think I went with a friend who drank. I was actually pissed because someone kept like stepping on my foot, and like it was so annoying. So I don't remember it as a fun event, but that was the last time I think I remember having close to fun.
Yeah. Even with since my parents are super open about drinking and stuff like that, sitting down with them, sitting down with your sister, your sibling, and like just having a drink is really nice, and having those talks with them is like really nice and a bonding moment. So I've had those experiences as well with my family.
Yeah. No, my issue is like I have to explain it to everyone for some reason, but it's because I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis and I'm on medicines like metformin. And when you're taking metformin, you all must know this, you can't drink, regardless of the fact that you want or not. And it's just my choice though. I just don't like to be in a state when I'm like not 100% conscious. So it's just something that so it's just a choice. But yeah, I do appreciate parents who make the environment like comfortable for their children, because then they feel comfortable in being themselves at in every state, like whether it's conscious or mildly unconscious or like that.
I think it makes it safer too for the child, because you're not learning at a young age, but it's coming from a source that you've grown up with and that you've always learned from, and so then you can kind of be more safer with it rather than it being a rebellious act.
Yeah, the rebellious act is like a little dangerous at times, because children, teenagers especially, like they go like far beyond limits to sort of be rebellious in that way.
Yeah, especially like people, I feel like freshmen who come here, like who haven't drank before in high school, they don't know the limits with peer pressure as well. They just want to fit into the social circle, so they would drink a lot and go beyond what they're actually supposed to.
Yeah, and I'm sure half the students who are drinking after coming to college and who haven't had like a high school drinking experience, I feel like they aren't even doing it for fun, but actually because of peer pressure. Like alcohol doesn't taste good, so definitely it's to just fit in and make new friends. And I think that's not a very healthy way to just come about it. And, okay, I'll go to a party, or I'll just sit and have a drink with one or two of my friends, and we'll bond over that. Like I think we can bond over sober times as well, because that would establish more meaningful connections.
I can stay sober and be weird. So
Mhm.
they wonder how I do it.
Yeah.
But I somehow am weird like that, maybe.
I've been turned away from places because they think I'm too drunk and I'm literally stone cold sober.
Oh
They're like, oh, you're not well right now, and I'm like, I'm just crazy. I'm just
Me and my friends from back home, we would like, this is our thing where we would go to like clubs or something like that, and we actually don't drink a lot together because we don't need
Yeah.
alcohol to be weird together or
Mhm.
dance like batshit crazy on the dance
Yeah.
floor. Because we're just having fun together and we know the hook steps or something like that. So it's just fun
Yeah.
together without, having drinks involved.
Yeah, and the peer pressure, I feel like I, as a person who does not drink, I'm like the biggest advocate of not falling into that peer pressure
Mhm.
because I have seen people like, even if I go to parties, it's not like I don't go to parties, but if
Mhm.
I go and if I see people who are drinking, they would put me in a position and keep asking me and like forcing me, oh, you should have a drink, oh, you should, you
Mhm.
should, you should, which is not okay. Like, you as a like anybody in your environment who is not okay with doing something, you should not be putting pressure on them.
Yeah.
And that peer pressure, it is crazy. Like, it
Mhm.
made me question my choice too at times,
Mhm.
but I am very strong like that, I guess. So I did not fall for it because took it as a I took it on my ego. I will be very honest. I was
Yeah.
like, no way I'm drinking because they want me to drink.
Right, you're
no
gonna drink
way
because
I'm
you want to, not
Yes.
because someone's pressuring you.
Period.
Yeah.
Slay. So
Yeah.
that's just my experience with peer pressure. And Vidya and Anoki have seen it because they have been to parties with me, and like sometimes people just like try to put the bottle in
They
my
usually
mouth.
put it in your
Yeah.
face. Like,
Yeah.
Like drink.
Yeah. I'm like,
yeah.
Very unnecessary.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and this isn't just about our college. We're not targeting anyone, but I think this is literally everywhere you go. Be it any
Yeah,
country, be it
yeah.
anywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, people just want to have drinks and force everybody else to have a drink. I mean, okay, if I get it, like you ask them once or twice out of like courtesy, maybe just like to show off their friendship. But if you go beyond a certain limit, I think it just gets pretty annoying for the other person as well.
There's also this mindset. So not sure if you guys have heard of this mindset, but I hear it a lot within my friends and then just anyone who talks about alcohol. With culture of care, but it's this thing where if, like, for example, it's Little Five weekend, we're drinking like 2 days straight, 3 days straight, whatever. It's like, in order to avoid the hangover, you have to keep drinking. Like, that's what people have been saying.
Oh.
So it's like, okay, if you don't want to be hungover, like, you can't be hungover if you're still drunk. So it's like, just keep drinking. And then
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
new. That's very new.
that's what
Yeah.
everyone, like, anytime I'm like, oh, like, I can't have any more because I don't want to be hungover. I want to feel good. I have stuff to do tomorrow. They're like, well, if you keep drinking, you won't have the hangover. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be drinking at 9 a.m. So yeah. So that's kind of a new mindset that everyone's been like
Yeah.
kind of pushing onto people.
Like, I hope people are like not falling for it because
Mhm.
that sounds so like
Yeah.
stupid to me. Like,
Yeah.
why would you?
You would be
Because, like-
hungover some or the other time.
Yeah.
Might as well just
Yeah.
Just do it earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
rather
if
than
you like
harming
for
yourself.
if like for us, if you have an exam the very next day, are you gonna give it while
Yeah.
you're drunk?
But that was like a big thing, like last year during Little Five, and then Halloween weekend when it's like 3 or 4 days where everyone's going out or whatever. Like people are like, no, if you keep drinking, like you won't feel it, which is
that makes
crazy
sense.
because you're gonna feel it eventually.
yeah.
And even if you are still drinking, like you're gonna be throwing up throughout, like you're gonna feel sick throughout. Like it's inevitable. So it's like,
Mhm.
but that's what
Yeah,
people
well,
have
thank
been
you for
pushing onto
sharing
people.
that,
Yeah.
right? Because we
Yeah.
totally did not know about that,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it's going to enlighten so many out there.
Do not fall for it.
No.
You don't need to
It
keep
doesn't-
drinking.
You're not actually gonna feel better. You might during, like you might
Yeah.
think that you are during, but it'll
Yeah.
whatever what comes around, what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
I've also heard people take Adderall for even the people who don't. So basically, Adderall is for people who have ADHD. They're prescribed, and so the people who want to focus on studying, they end up taking it to focus on their studying, but it's not meant for that. It's for people who are diagnosed with ADHD to focus on anything for that matter. So that's a prevalent issue I see nowadays, and I see people taking it and friends helping friends sort of gain access to this medication, which is a little scary. Do you guys have anyone who's like
No.
No, we don't know of anyone.
Medicine abuse is not something I've heard of or
Yeah.
experienced.
Yeah, it's not something that I've directly like encountered or seen, but with like culture of care, it's something that we talk about a lot because it's something that's very prevalent on IU's campus, just like substance abuse in general, whether it be alcohol, whether it be something like Adderall or cocaine or even marijuana can be abused a lot. And it's just like knowing that, especially Adderall is more scary because it's a prescribed medicine, and it's not something you can just get over the counter. Like, you get it from someone who has been given that by a doctor,
right?
And because like ADHD diagnosis are like pretty like commonly given out, like it's not something that's like, okay, you can't get diagnosed with ADHD, period. Like, a lot of people can be diagnosed with that pretty easily and then get Adderall for it. A lot of people tend to misuse that and abuse that. So that's something that we've noticed, specifically in other like certain areas of campus. It's where like we see the most prevalent Adderall issues.
So guys, do not use Adderall to focus on your exams, because this is not a this is a prescribed medicine, which means that there's a reason why a person who has been diagnosed with ADHD needs to take it. So it definitely will have side effects on your health. So you should avoid it.
Especially because people who aren't prescribed it, like, they aren't told how much you should take within a certain dosage. And so if your friend gives you a couple pills and they're like, oh yeah, I just take one a day or whatever, if you are immediately not feeling that, you're more inclined to then take another one and be like, okay, I'm not feeling it. Okay, I'm not feeling it. I don't feel focused or anything. And that's where the abuse comes in, especially too.
Right.
So moving ahead with the science behind drinking and coping, it's a pretty boring idea, but it's crucial to be addressed because it's a very prevalent issue. It's very common these days. So, just talking about it is going to actually help solve a lot of issues when we look at the science behind it and why that actually happens. So I feel like alcohol is basically used to provide temporary relief. So people in that situation, like all of you mentioned, that people use that in situations where they feel positive during that time, but it's actually having a very negative impact on you over the long term. So people think, okay, it's a very short term thing that we have right now, and we're in college or maybe we're in a work setting, and it's going to be a very temporary solution to all of our problems, but it's actually going to cause a lot of damage over the long period.
Alcohol causes dopamine release, which is obviously that neurotransmitter is obviously known for happiness and excitement. So obviously the temporary relief, that obviously does play a role. And I've also heard of something called avoidant mechanism, where it's like people who use alcohol as a coping mechanism, they're escaping from their feelings, or rather than just addressing it with a person they trust. So I feel like that also plays a huge role in alcohol abuse and similarly drug abuse as well.
There's a part of your brain, it's called the amygdala. It's responsible for all emotional systems that like take place in your body, and alcohol affects that system, hence releasing the neurotransmitters like Vidya mentioned, and that provides like a brief de-stress response in your brain. So that is the science behind it. It's not just psychological, it's actually a very scientific, factual, knowledge-based thing. So I have another prompt for you guys. I think it's pretty interesting. So we all watch Netflix movies and everything. So we often see that people romanticize the idea of drinking after, the heroes break up or the protagonists break up in a story. So that's like really, really focused upon that, they break up and then the next scene is the guy is just drinking and, just sitting out there upset, drinking with a bottle in his hand, So we see that a lot. So what are your thoughts on it? Like, why do you think they do it? Like, why do you think they have to, romanticize the whole idea of actually showing that on the screen? Like, the point where they're actually showing the actor holding a bottle and, upset of the fact that he has gone through a breakup or he or she has gone through a breakup.
I think it's like, the reason that it's portrayed so much is just because it's this sense of relatability in what the writers are creating, and that it's something that is happening in everyday life. Maybe it's not that extreme or whatever, but like, people can relate to that and relate to turning to a substance whenever things go south for them. Not that it's a healthy mechanism or it's a healthy relationship with that substance, especially alcohol, but I think that's why it's like romanticized. But it's also important to know that it is not reality, it is fiction.
Do you think it might be a picture?
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna refer to how social media is sort of pushing these ideas that we're talking about, how so people are advocating for a lot of things, like we're on the good side of the social media, but there are people who are also like pushing the wrong connotations of alcoholism. Like, I see a lot of Indian films or movies not, we're just trying to make this like a global experience. Like we're talking about US and we're talking about India. So from Indian perspective, I've seen movies, so you won't be able to understand it, Jessica, but I'll show you sometime when you're free. So this movie called Ashiki, there's a movie called Kabir Singh. Not to target anyone, but these movies are, they really portray drinking as a masculine trait and something that is important for men to, it makes them powerful. It sort of makes them a man, So it's funny, but it's also promoting a wrong idea of about alcoholism. Men don't need to smoke or don't need to drink, and women don't need to only stick to wine. So
I think Kabir Singh, like they showed how he used it as a coping mechanism after his whatever breakup or whatever, So that was also a thing. I feel like movies, like be it any type, Bollywood or Hollywood, I feel like it just showcases, obviously after the person goes through the breakup, and with such young audience watching that movie or film, I feel like it's just, they get that sort of mindset where they're just like, oh wait, I saw it in some movie, like, oh my god, I'm sad, I'm going through something, let me just like
and it's so funny because they make it
something.
A-rated or something. Okay, films like Euphoria, the series, the legendary series, Euphoria. I see so many problems with that, but we don't need to dive into the depths of that, but just the fact that just making it A-rated or stating that, oh, this is creative freedom and this is just a film, it is impacting people. It's impact because all teenagers have access to this on the internet, so you have to be careful and be mindful of the fact that you are mindful of the fact that you are influencing children and teenagers and making an impact on their minds at such a young stage in their lives, right?
Yeah, and I think what you guys said is so valid, because adolescents, when they're looking at like social media, and what if they are going through a breakup in the real life scenario, and they'll just be like, oh, I'm supposed to be drinking right now, like I'm doing the wrong thing by just sitting back, and
this is what everyone has done.
Everyone has done, like, oh, I looked at the movies and that is what they did, so I should just copy them and do the same thing, and that might lead to the onstart of their addiction or maybe anything in general. So, they might have an idea of, okay, what I'm doing is wrong, but what the movie is doing is right, so I should follow them, and if I'm not, then I'm wrong again.
Yeah, exactly. I also felt like sometimes if people who have just started drinking at an earlier age, and they go up to a person who probably started drinking in their early 20s or late teens, when they come to college, and people who have started at their early teens, I feel like, people who started late have just been like, oh wait, was I late in starting this, or did I miss out on the fun?
The pressure of starting it early in the life.
That's also a very big, influence on addiction as well.
From you guys as to whether it is a red flag or a green flag. So starting with the first one, and if you guys want to give like one-liner explanations, that would work too. Okay, so the first one is, it's my best friend's wedding and I'm toasting with a champagne, just one glass, but I'm savoring every moment.
I think it's a green flag.
I think it's a green flag. Yeah.
That's a green flag.
Celebratory.
Yeah. And just one champagne glass. It's not
it's not.
Wine and paint night with friends, everyone's tipsy, but it's all laughter, creativity, and bonding.
Definitely green flag. Yeah.
It's like having a couple glasses isn't bad as long as it's not.
And if you're with trusted, company, then it's definitely, I feel like it's okay.
Yeah. Drinking at a work event to feel like I fit in with the higher ups.
Red flag.
Do you think it might be a green flag when it comes to a more relatable scenario? Like, we all have done that once. Like, we need to admit that somewhere, if not totally, we have kind of fallen for that trap where you feel like, I just want to fit in and, just have some good time with my peers or professionals or things like
I think it kind of like, it's kind of subjective in the way that, like, if you aren't comfortable with these people, drinking isn't necessarily going to help that. Like, it might make you feel that at first, but it could also lead to other problems. You might become too open, and it's a professional event, so
you might embarrass yourself. That could get you in trouble as well.
Yeah,
totally.
Skipping meals so I can save calories for alcohol.
No.
Red flag, big red flag.
We're doing an event later this month that is the importance of drinking before you eat. So please don't not eat before you drink, please.
I have this like one experience where I remember I was drinking with friends from back home, like at their house, and it was just the three of us, three girls, and we were just drinking, we were having fun. I remember we had gotten like these I think like cheese I don't know, like I think it was like mozzarella sticks or something, and I was drinking and I was having fun with my friends, and my friend was like stuffing the mozzarella sticks in my mouth so that I'm like a little sober, and she was like giving me water as well. So I was like, you know what, yeah, and then I think the night went well, but she was just like, I need to make sure that everyone's like
Yeah.
well fed. At least you're drinking water with your drink so that you're not.
Okay. So just to clarify
yeah.
for whoever is new to this and is listening to the podcast, you should drink before eating or after, and why or why not?
Eat before drinking.
Yeah, drinking for sure.
Okay. And why?
Because if you're on an empty stomach, you are already like, if you haven't eaten, no matter what, like if you just don't eat, you're already feeling kind of not yourself. You're feeling a little more vulnerable and, a little lightheaded and stuff like that, which is something that alcohol can also do. So that kind of like, if you're not eating before you drink, it like speeds up that effect. So any side effect that you have from drinking, it speeds it up because it's not able to soak up into anything that's in your stomach.
So it hits you harder.
Yeah, it hits you harder. It's going straight up to your brain, and there's nothing to kind of like patent that cushion. So let's say your limit is like 8 drinks a night, and then you're drinking 8 drinks without eating. That's like almost doubling that.
Yeah. And people end up throwing up a lot.
Yes.
If you don't eat before.
Especially because alcohol is, no matter what you drink, there's a lot of like hard liquors that are so sugary, and if that's the only thing going into your body, it's natural for it to come back up.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's move forward. So the next one that I have for you, okay, this one's tricky, but a glass of wine every night to wind down after work. Never more than one, but it feels necessary now.
I feel like it's a red flag.
flag.
If it feels necessary, if it becomes a habit, then
I feel like you're
It's
in the
close to
gray
an
area.
addiction.
Like
Yeah.
you
Beige
should
flag.
be under warning
Yeah.
that okay, this is a sign that it might turn into the biggest red
Right.
flag in life.
The big thing about like alcohol is, and any substance, is that you shouldn't be codependent on something. It's just like a
Exactly.
relationship. Once you're codependent on that person, it becomes a bit unhealthy, and that's the exact same thing.
That's it for the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. Thank you so much, Vidya, for joining us.
it was our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank
It was
you
so fun.
much.
It was so fun to know your experiences,
Yeah.
and we are looking forward to more collaborations with Culture of Care.
For sure.
And just the amazing work that you're doing. Continue to do it and continue to empower and make an impact like you do.
Thanks. I will.
Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and send it to your friends. Send it to all the freshmen,
And send us your drinking scenario so that we can tell you what's a green and a red flag again.
Yes, right. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.